Hello and welcome to Evaluate This. I'm Andrew Fryer, and in this short screencast I'm going to play with live migration in Windows Server 2012 Hyper-V. I've got a virtual machine here called London SQL. It's the only virtual machine running on this server, London 2. It's called London SQL because it's running SQL Server 2012, as you can see. I've also put a special application on here that runs a perfmon trace against a SQL Server workload. It's ticking away idly here, and what I can do now is start a heavy workload that's going to recursively run a complicated query and essentially thrash my virtual machine. And off it goes. I'm just going to minimize that now. And leave it scrolling away. I might need to do something to this physical host, so I need to move this virtual machine onto another host. And if I want to do that in Server 2012, I just select Move. Move the whole virtual machine to a server called London 1. I'm moving the whole thing, and I need to specify a location on London 1. Notice I'm remote browsing to it, in this case D in my library, UK Demo Kit, and I've already got a folder called London SQL where I'm going to put it. And I'll just hit finish. That's going to start ticking away. I'm just going to move that up there a bit. Bring back my remote desktop session. This is going to take about 3 minutes to complete, so I've speeded the video up here. And what's going on in the background is that the memory state and the hard disk that represent the virtual machine are being copied from the source host to the target host. Now that takes a finite amount of time, and of course both of those could have changed during that time. So the process goes back to the source, realises what's changed, copies that over. That takes less time. And this process gradually reduces to 0 until we're allowed to snap over from the source to the target without losing anything. That virtual machine is gone, so I can shut down London 2 now, knowing that my virtual machine is now running on London SQL. And you can see the uptime now is only a few seconds because it's just come back on here. So what's different about this in Windows Server 2012 and Hyper-V is that I didn't use a cluster. If I look at the properties of London 2, there's no sign of any failover clustering on here. I didn't use any shared storage. You saw me selecting the folder on the other server where I was going to put my virtual machine. So this is called live migration shared nothing. And how do we get that to work? Well, if I go back to Hyper-V and look at the properties of London SQL, first of all we need to make sure all the resources that London SQL requires are on both hosts. So if I look at its settings, first of all, I might want to make sure my processor compatibility is there. If I've got different processors on each of these, then I might need to check this box. I've got 2 modern laptops with identical processors. I didn't need to worry about that. The other important thing to notice is that when London SQL executes on its new host, it's going to look for a network called CourtNet. So you need to have a virtual switch there. And if these resources aren't there, then the virtual machine won't live migrate. It'll just stay where it was and you'll get an error message. The next thing we need to look at is the Hyper-V settings themselves on each host. If I look at live migrations here, you can see that it's enabled and that I'm using Kerberos. I'll come to that in a minute. But if you don't have your virtual machines in the same domain, you could use CredSSP. I can also allow multiple simultaneous live migrations, which is new for Server 2012. And how many you want to enable is up to you depending on your bandwidth. You can also specify specific IP addresses for live migration as well if you want to. So my 2 hosts are in the same domain, consoso.com, and if I look at the properties of each of these servers, we can see how Kerberos works. If I look at London 1 and look at its delegation, you can see a whole load of specific services, and the 2 important ones for Hyper-V are CIFS and the virtual machine migration service. So I've actually set up two-way trust between all of these machines to make this work. That's pretty much all you need to do. And if you want to try this for yourself, I'm afraid you're going to need two physical hosts to get this to work. And then you're going to need an evaluation copy of Windows Server 2012, which you can download from the link below. I've been Andrew Fryer. Thank you very much for listening.